Well, now this is something you don't quite see very often. A man on a Formula One racetrack while the race is on. But that's what happened over the weekend during the Singapore Grand Prix, and the Indian origin British man who walked on the track has been booked by a Singapore court. Yogvitam Praveen Dhokia, 27, was arrested by the police for a rash act after he found his way onto the track in the Marina Bay Street circuit on Sunday and was today charged in a court in Singapore for committing a rash act that endangered the lives of drivers. His bail was set at $15,000 and his passport was impounded. His action caused the safety car to be deployed, and at least one driver, runner-up Daniel Ricciardo of Red Bull, said the man's intrusion affected the outcome of the race. Ferrari's Sebastian Vettel, who won the race, also said he did a double take when the man appeared shortly after the race's halfway stage. You know, I'd like to cut across to Shivani, my colleague. She's joining us from the newsroom. She has more details of the story. You know, Shivani, why on earth would you do something like this? What's the explanation behind it?
Absolutely no explanation. It's really something that absolutely no sane person would even like to, commit, because it's really putting your life in danger. Can you imagine, on a Formula One track, cars are zooming on the track at 200 kilometers per hour, and suddenly you see a man crossing the racetrack. It puts everyone's life in danger. This man actually was booked under several sections under the Singapore law. His passport has been impounded, and $15,000 was set as bail, which he pleaded with the court that he cannot arrange. But given the seriousness of his act and given how serious or strict Singapore law is, the man has actually been detained. He hasn't been allowed to go, and the next hearing is only 2 weeks after the first one. So this man is definitely going to remember this for a long time. But shocking incident, something like this, you don't even need to tell anyone to not do. You have the common sense to not go on the track while a race is on. And two drivers, Jenson Button, Sebastian Vettel, who won the race, and Ricciardo, the runner-up, both were quite pissed at this event, and spoke to the media after the event saying that, this is absolutely crazy and nothing like this should ever be allowed during a Formula One race.
What was his justification, Shivani? Why would he just, was it a whim? Is he unstable? What was the point? What was his justification for doing what he did?
There's no justification, Preeti, that there can be, and none has been provided. He's pleaded obviously for pardon, but in the pictures, one can only barely make out that he might have been trying to click certain pictures. He found an opening in the wall, the barricades that are made during on the sidelines of the circuit, and he crossed. Almost seemed absent-minded during this. Clearly, an absolute lack of thinking on the part of this man, who's actually a British national but is now in Singapore jail.
Have any other incidents like that ever happened, Shivani, or this is the first?
Well, we've never seen a spectator just crossing the track while the race is on. We've seen incidents where a safety car is already in play, and there are stewards who come on sometimes after a crash, and due to some misunderstanding, sometimes the drivers were still racing or trying to slow down, don't see stewards like that. There was obviously an incident where there was a truck trying to overhaul a crash material, and that's when we saw one of the most fatal incidents of race accidents in Formula One history, but nothing like this, where a spectator just walked on quite casually and carelessly on the track.
Well, you're bang on there. Fairly bizarre. Nobody quite knows why on earth would you do something like that. No justification offered by this gentleman there. Indian origin British citizen, been charged with $15,000 in Singapore court, has been detained, not been allowed to leave the country. Well, this one he'd remember for a while now. Appreciate you joining us, Shivani. Thank you.